Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're back, baby. Y'all know the vibes, man. Um, Bruh, scrolling through Twitter, man, you gonna find some stuff, dog. And today, Brian Windhorse had this to say about Kyrie.
He broke it up in Cleveland. He broke what chance of one up in Boston, and he broke up one of the biggest flops of a super team in Brooklyn. He's normalized.
This man said he's normalized breaking up super teams. Talks about the time in Cleveland, his time in Boston, and his time in Brooklyn. Which I don't know why you're taking a shot at him, number one. But let's break some of this stuff down, right? First, Kyrie started his career out in Cleveland. Won the city of Cleveland a championship. Him and LeBron. It wasn't just LeBron. That man Kyrie did hit the shot. Now, unless you want to call it Jordan shot, the shot. But Kyrie hit the shot, bro. He hit the shot. He decides to leave and go to Boston, which he is well within his rights to do, right? So he can lead a team, be on his own team, um, do his own thing, be his own man, not have to be in the shadow of LeBron. Now, granted, that doesn't work out. The Boston situation doesn't work out. So he heads to Brooklyn. Now, Boston is one thing. Uh, Brooklyn is a whole entire. It's a whole different thing, right? Even Cleveland, he got a championship. So anything you say about Cleveland, honestly, is irrelevant. Bron left. You know what I'm saying? People left. And it starts with COVID. It starts with the pandemic and Kyrie not wanting to take the vaccine. Well, fast forward now to 2024 and all the news that we've heard of this vaccine, how it started in the lab, how they were lying about it. His name Fauci or whatever. Who knows where he's at this point? That man done disappeared off the face of the earth. Who is lying to the American public? The vaccine, they're still making new vaccines, still trying to create stuff because um there is no end to it. People are still getting it today. He had to pay punishment for not getting the vaccine. He was allowed to sit there in the gym, in the arena. He was allowed to, or sorry, other players were allowed that weren't vaccinated to come in and play. But because the mayor had a mandate to where if you're a worker in New York, you had to have it, he had to be punished for that. So you have media people like him, like a Stephen A, who at one point was telling them to retire. These guys never have come back and corrected it. This is what LeBron was talking about, bro. That LeBron tweet about the media, like when it had to deal with Joel Embiid. This is what he was talking about. Nobody ever goes back and says, "Damn, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said it like that. I didn't know things were going to play out like that." At least then we could have At least then we could have some, some respect for you. But y'all don't even do that. Y'all just continue to feed into the agendas that you want to place, that these corporations are also bringing down on you, your bosses are bringing down on you, and y'all just continue to push those narratives. Is Kyrie perfect? No. He have handled just things in different ways? Of course, as we all can. But to sit there and say that he broke up this Brooklyn team is such a crazy shot, bro. It's such a crazy shot. So you first start with COVID, where now you look back at it and you realize how stupid it was. It's like, damn, my bad, Kyrie. But we ain't gonna say that. Then we can get into this whole uh Jewish and anti-Semitic things, and look where we are today, right? They had they had a rabbi. They had a rabbi come on to ESPN to talk about the Hebrews to Negroes movie that Kyrie posted. And on top of that, nobody watched the movie. Nobody. You know who did watch the movie? I did. You know who took notes on the movie? I did. But because there were uh pictures of things that people didn't like to see, everything gets taken out of context, right? So the first one being a quote from Hitler. And because Hitler said the quote, whether true or not true, people were, oh, no, 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 he said that. And it just, it's mind boggling, because what if he says something like 5 plus 5 is 10? We're going to throw out 5 plus 5 is 10 just because somebody we deemed as, and he's crazy. I mean, come on, bro. But just because that person said it, everything goes out the window. What are we talking about here? It just doesn't make any sense. And the other thing that people didn't like, so that was one thing, a statement from him that could be true or not true. And as the more we look at it, it it just seems like a fitting. I'll just say it seems like a fitting statement for society today. So that statement that could be true or not true, and then the fact that it questioned the amount of people that were killed in the Holocaust. People were upset about that. When you can Google different articles, different websites are going to have different accounts for how many people have been killed. Some say 1 million, and some say 4 million, others say 6 million. I don't see why that's wrong to question how many people were actually killed. That's like the slave ships. They were saying they brought so many people and they made so many voyages. When you start doing the numbers, when you actually do the research on it, it doesn't add up. The amount of people that came over slave ships. I'm not going to get into the people that were already here in the United States that weren't brought over. I'm not going to get all into that. But you are able to question these things that are just being thrown out, at you, when there's tons of articles that give different evidence to something else. And that's what the movie did. And I guarantee you 95, probably 90, actually 99% of people didn't watch the movie. They just took what was being thrown at them and accepted it for what it was. So then you have a rabbi come on here, right? You have a rabbi come on here to talk about Kyrie's post.
Saying Irving made a, quote, reckless decision to post a link to a film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material. He added he is, quote, disappointed that he has not offered an unqualified apology and will be meeting with Irving in the next week. This is the first time that any statement from the team, from the league, or the PA has specifically addressed Irving. Here now with Chene Agumake, Richard Jefferson, Vince Carter, and our guest, Rabbi Erez Sherman from Sinai Temple here in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Rabbi, I want to start with you here. What is your reaction to all that we just heard from Kyrie Irving?
The reaction was that when I was a child, I met people that were different than me on a basketball court, not necessarily in my synagogue.
Let's listen to his reaction. He starts out by saying, this is about the post. All he did was post a link. He's talking about, I've met people different than me. But let's continue.
Or even in my Jewish school, but on a basketball court. And so the fact that this ball is tearing people apart right now, it not only makes me mad.
He's saying the ball. He's talking about basketball is tearing people apart. Nothing about the link. Nothing about the movie. He's talking about the basketball.
What makes me scared, and not scared for myself, but actually scared for my own children, the kids in my own community and the kids around the world that take a tweet up there in the Twitterverse and the Instagram and the social media and take it as truth and then take that sometimes to action.
And some people might see this, as you mentioned, as just a social media.
That was his first reaction. That was his first reaction. I retweeted the movie. He didn't say no reaction about the movie. Didn't say what about it was false. He didn't say nothing. Let's continue.
Post, but I always pride myself on educate myself so that I can educate others. Can you educate us as to the real life consequences of a post like this?
Absolutely. The real life consequences start in a tweet, but end up in my driveway here in Los Angeles when I get a baggie saying the Jews are responsible for COVID, the Jews are responsible for XYZ. The real life consequences are when last week in my own Jewish school of middle school students on their way to a flag football game, their coach who was not Jewish, they're having an argument or a discussion about Kanye and Adidas, and the coach says, yes, I believe with Kanye. That was the only adult on the bus. And those kids were scared out of their mind, but they were educated and they were able to defend themselves. And the last consequence was from an email I got from a fourth grader yesterday that says, I love wearing Kyrie shoes. And I am so sad in my heart that I put those shoes away. And so those are consequences, not about basketball and shoes, which believe me, I watched you guys growing up. You were our role models. But we have to be better role models in terms of our hearts and our souls.
So right there, he's just spewing a bunch of nothing, right? It's just a bunch of nothing. Now, whatever you've gone through, if people put stuff on your yard, things like that, that's a whole different story. But what Kanye said was facts. And we can take a look, see if we can find an image here. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. We have, who is this? Tom Rothman? Is he? I'm gonna just type these names in and just find out. Tom Rothman, Jewish. His parents' Jewishness, so yes. So that's 1 for 1. Yeah. Bob Bakish, is that his name? Bob Bakish, Jewish. Let's say apparently. He's apparently non. No. Wait, is Wikipedia not a site now for this? American people of Jewish descent. By Bakish. I wonder if I could just go through that list. Right, yeah. All right, man, that's 2 for 2. Right, who else we got on here? Charlie. Let's say Collier. See, bro, I like doing my own research. You could always just see an image, but then it's like 6th AMC president and it turned out to be Jewish. Can I say is? Proud of it. Yo. Hey, man, that's 3 for 3, bro. I ain't finna go through this whole list, bro. We'll do one more. Brian Roberts, Comcast. Let's find out. Is Brian Roberts Jewish? Jewish root. The proof is in the pudding. You can Google this stuff, bro. You can Google this stuff, bro. Should we just keep going? Yeah, I can't even look at his last name. Is it Bob Iger? So this is Walt Disney. So this is pretty much ESPN right here. Bob. I think it was Iger. Jewish descent. Ethnicity. Come on, man. What are we talking about, bro? What are we talking about here, bro? Who runs it? He's the head. Walt Disney owns ESPN. Let's continue, bro. Let's get back to see what the rabbi had to say about this whole Kyrie situation. Let's see if he addresses the tweet, or most importantly, what was in there.
Could back up for just one moment. I think we need to start this conversation from a place of education and understanding. Why is the material in this book and film so deeply offensive?
Absolutely.
Great question. The question that needs answering, right? Let's hear it.
Absolutely. So just here in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles City Council passed 2 days ago the definition of anti-Semitism according to the IHRA, which is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And in that definition, it's
So we're going to go off the definition of the Holocaust Alliance, right? The people that had to go through things. We're going to go through the definition of that. Imagine if
says that a perception of hatred
perception of hatred. Perception is up for debate. What you perceive may be different than what I perceive. But just because I perceived it as hate, now it's anti-Semitism. You see how they play with words, bro? Because I perceived it as hate, it is hate.
To the Jewish community is the definition of anti-Semitism. Now, Charles Barkley asked me 2 days ago, have I read or seen that movie? And so when he asked, I looked it up and I started seeing what those anti-Semitic tropes were.
No. He asked you what? Let's repeat it.
Started seeing what those anti-Semitic tropes were.
Oh.
Number 2, the Jewish community is the definition of anti-Semitism. Now, Charles Barkley asked me 2 days ago, have I read or seen that movie?
That's a yes or no question.
And so when he asked, I looked it up and I started seeing what those
He still didn't say yes or no.
anti-Semitic tropes were. Number 1, there's untruths there. And when
Number one, there's untruth. Let's find out what those untruths are.
untruths are then seen as truths to the next person, that leads to very dangerous consequences.
If you could
Bro, you can't make this up. Number one, he said it like he was about to list things off. Number one, there's untruths there. Okay. What are the untruths? Are you not going to tell us? You sure didn't say if you had watched it or read it. You didn't say yes.
speak to Kyrie, and I know we're on camera now, but in a personal education way, like what would you say to him? Not necessarily about like your feelings, because you've made those very clear and they're very honest, and
Great job, RJ. Right. We know his feelings. But let's talk about what it was.
we appreciate you sharing them, but more in a level of education. Like, what would you say to him if you could?
Absolutely. So in our synagogue, we're blessed with gymnasiums, and during the summers, some of those players, now the secret's out now on ESPN, some of those players train in our facility. And every day I go to those players and I just say hello. And in the beginning of the season, they look like me like this. But at the end of the season, before they go off to their season, we give each other hugs because we got to know each other. And I pray that Kyrie, if he's in LA,
This man, Richard Jefferson, asked him to educate Kyrie. Let me go back for y'all, bro. Listen to this.
players, and I just say hello. And in the beginning,
You say to him if you could.
absolutely. So in our synagogue, we're blessed with gymnasiums, and during the summers, some of those players, now the secret's out now on ESPN, some of those players train in our facility. And every day I go to those players and I just say hello. And in the beginning of the season, they look like me like this. But at the end of the season, before they go off to their season, we give each other hugs because we got to know each other. And I pray that Kyrie, if he's in LA, when he's playing the Clippers, when he's playing the Lakers, come into our community. Because one of my best friends actually is a pastor in Inglewood. And we share a love of sports, we share a love of faith. Most of the things that we do together are actually based around sports because we have the love of faith. And so I say, embrace each other's faith. I call it multi-faith, not interfaith. Interfaith gets like a little messy. Multi-faith says, your faith is strong, your faith is strong, your faith is strong, and my faith is strong, and we can actually live together. Dr. Martin Luther King has famously
And then they do this, right? Then they do this. You want to bring up Dr. Martin Luther King, the dude y'all shot. Y'all want to bring him up into it to trying to prove your point. Richard Jefferson asked you to educate, and you talking about you should come into our gym. We give hugs at the end. Do you feel educated? Did he teach you anything right there? Have y'all found out why there was an issue? He didn't explain anything yet.
marched with Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel in Alabama, not because they looked alike or served the same communities, but because they had the same belief that our society can change.
Speaking of that, I think something that has stood out to me that we've heard Kyrie mention a couple of times over the last several days, today in speaking about making sure folks bring the same energy. The first press conference he had when he walked off of the press conference and said, well, what about black women's reproductive rights? This notion of siloed care, that because I care about X, I cannot have the capacity to care about Y. How can that mentality shift?
So this is not just about sports, this is about our country. No surprise, the next week we have elections. I'm not going in there, I'm a rabbi, I don't talk about politics, I talk about the heart and the soul. But that can change when we know the other. That can change not when, as Rich Eisen said on his podcast the other day, Kyrie, you're dehumanizing me, but that changes when we humanize each other. I read your story in the New York Post, I believe, last year about you being Jewish and African American. Wow, you need to tell that story. You need to get us together. You need to tell young people in black communities, in Jewish communities, and by the way, I think it's important, not all Jews look like me. Jews have different skin colors, Jews come from different...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's run that back. Let's run that back. Look, this is the most replayed part. Ooh, ooh. Let's listen.
That can change when we know the other. That can change not when, as Rich Eisen said on his podcast the other day, Kyrie, you're dehumanizing me, but that changes when we humanize each other. I read your story in the New York Post, I believe, last year about you being Jewish and African American. Wow, you need to tell that story. You need to get us together. You need to tell young people in black communities, in Jewish communities, and by the way, I think it's important, not all Jews look like me. Jews have different skin colors. Jews come from different places around the world. Jews have
If you would have read the book or watched the movie, you would have heard that. But you didn't. So you made this statement about what's actually in the movie that actually describes that. And not only does it describe that, it goes into depth on the travel of these people. So for you to come off and say these things about it, and then for you to say that is so contradictory. And nobody called them out because they don't know.
different political opinions. It's
Or, Big Boss is Jewish. So you can't really say nothing.
everywhere. Just like Catholics and Episcopalians and any type of religion, there's a diversity of opinion. And at the end of the day, we're here to put on this earth to partner with each other. And when we partner with each other, that's when we continue to partner with God.
So I have a question. So with all this being said, where do we go from here in your opinion, and how do we get everyone at the table to listen, to heal, and to move forward?
Absolutely. It's getting around the table, because too many of these tables are filled with empty chairs. 2 days ago, we got together multi-faith people, as I told you before, from kippas to collars.
He ain't talking about nothing, bro. But you know what I'm saying? We throw him on there as like the spokesperson, and he didn't say nothing. But Kyrie gets the blame for that. So we go through COVID. We go through COVID, which turned out to be a lie. I don't want to call it a lie because there was what happened is all factual, but how things transpired and how things came about, we were definitely lied to, and there was definitely a some control going on around that. A lot of white lies and half truths. But it's Kyrie's fault. And then you got what Winshorse said today. And now let's see what they was talking about on their show, bro.
Atmosphere. It might as well have been a regular Tuesday in November. Like it was sort of the opposite of his entire tenure here, which was just full of insanity and noise on all sorts of levels. He kind of referred to it obliquely in his comments, saying, essentially, I made some mistakes, which that is maybe the understatement of the century. But it was jarring. I mean, as someone who covered this team back when it moved to Brooklyn 12 years ago, it is jarring how much things have degraded, at least how it feels anyway, from an atmosphere standpoint here. Like, it just doesn't feel like there's any fans really for the Nets at all at these games. Like, you come every night and the visiting team is getting massive cheers compared to the home team. And whenever Kyrie made a shot, the cheers were a lot louder than the handful of boos he was getting.
But it's Kyrie. Because it's Kyrie. And all that stuff y'all trying to make it seem was all fallacy.
From the home fans. I don't think it's because there was like.
Now, let me say that there was definitely times where he could have said things a lot better. But, I mean, there's times where we all can say things a lot better. And that's why we're given a chance to go back and clear things up as well.
A massive amount of Nets fans cheering for Kyrie. I think there were a lot of Mavs fans here cheering for Kyrie and Luka. And it's just sort of what it's been like on a nightly basis of late. And it made for kind of a weird atmosphere. I mean, perhaps the funniest part was, last week when Kevin was here, they did a, welcome back video and a nice little tribute today they just do welcome back to Kyrie, to Seth Curry, who played like a year and a half here, played like 80 games, and Markieff Morris, who played 27 games here. Had them all like lumped in together. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, did Mr. Whammy have a sign?
I did not see Mr. Whammy. I'm sure he had a sign. He always does. But yeah, it was a weird night, and Kyrie was in a good mood afterward, and per usual, put in a
busting
lot
your
of
head.
stuff. Some of it
He
made sense.
tweeted after the game
He
before.
did tweet after the game.
Before
I
he
mean, it
came
was
to the
all
media.
fine. I mean, it was
Well,
there was no real drama or controversy for once.
right. Well, he said, "Thank you for everything, God. I got to stay poised through the chaos and hate. The next generation is watching." Was there chaos and hate there tonight, or was he
No.
just referring to
I don't know.
miscellaneous chaos and hate?
Miscellaneous, I think.
Okay.
I mean, he got
Was there any
asked by-
sage? Did any sage?
I didn't
was
see
any
any
sage
sage.
burned? Okay.
I mean, this was really the quote
So disrespectful, bro. That's so disrespectful, bro.
of the day. He got asked by Brian Mahoney from the AP, was there something that could have been done to have you not ask for a trade? And he said, I don't want to get too deep into it because I love protecting the people that I'm in business with, even if it doesn't work out.
He does?
Again, it's amusing when you get into what he said next. Again, I wish all those guys well. But conversations that needed to be had weren't had before the trade deadline. And I don't know if anything needed to be salvaged. I just think it was time to get my own peace of mind and go somewhere where I was able to thrive and be in a situation where I didn't have to worry about kind of behind the back talk or the media talk or not knowing how to handle real life circumstances that have nothing to do with the game of basketball. It has everything to do with how you handle someone as a person. So that would seem to be having things to say about people you were working with. I don't know. But by Kyrie standards, that is a molehill. And there wasn't really anything else that happened. And the Mavs are way better than the Nets. And if anything else, the last week is a reminder of like the Nets had these two guys on the team and there was all this promise of what it could be. And ultimately they won one playoff series and it ended with a whimper. And now they've got this team that's gone 5-15 in their last 20 games, and going into the trade deadline, it's kind of rudderless.
Well, and they won one playoff series and gave up all their draft capital. And
Yes.
the Nets are right back in the place, not geographically, but metaphorically, where they've been for most of the franchise's history, and that is NBA irrelevancy. You know, I mean, it just is what it is. And
They're a lot more fun, though.
They now.
Well, that was like their goal. They were so, they wanted a team that was like high character and fun to watch and support and everything.
Well, unfortunately, they're not that fun to watch.
There's nothing fun about the Nets these days.
They're not. It's just. It's not. I'm not trying to be a hater or anything, but
If Salty was an interview, the Ocean Call, they need their salt back. You can see this man holding back tears while saying what he was saying. Why are the average sports reporters so unlikable to 99% of sports fans? You guys can't make this up, man. And when you have Stephen A talking about, he tried to make his little spiels on new media. Bruh, y'all are ran by, you guys are puppets. You ran by puppet masters. How can y'all not see that? Or you just see it and obviously you don't care. Is that what I'm gonna leave with Kyrie? I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I ain't gonna go into it anymore. I just think it's mad disrespectful. I think a lot of that needed to be, a lot of context needed to be put to that, bro. And there was a lot of stuff that, y'all call yourself reporters. Y'all are just TV analysts, bro. Not even analysts. Personalities. People just know y'all face, so it's easier to have you on TV. But I guarantee the moment that other people start showing face and actually start talking about the game and keep it 100 Y'all gonna see them numbers drop. That's all I gotta say, man. Y'all stay up, man. Always do your research. Never believe what these people are just force feeding you, bro. Just propaganda. Catch y'all next time, man. Peace.